What's going on, y'all? Welcome to episode 46 of the Half Price Concessions podcast as we sit down with Ace Speedway's own Robert Turner. Robert Turner has one of the most unique perspectives on Ace Speedway of anybody I know. The guy has been a fan, he has been a racer, he's been a winner, a two-time late model champion, the all-time wins leader in the late model division, and now at present day serves as a co-owner and co-operator of the facility. It's hard to imagine a career quite like what Robert Turner has had when it pertains to Ace Speedway. We were able to sit down with him actually at Ace Speedway in the grandstands to get his story, his perspective on things, where his racing career began, how it evolved over the years, and how his own perspective has changed and grown over the years. So I know you guys are going to really enjoy this one. Robert's story is an amazing one. Sit back and relax. Episode 46 of the Half Price Concessions podcast with Robert Turner is coming up on the other side of this break.
When you're eating breakfast, you don't think twice about hitting an electric line in your cereal. If you're looking through your dresser, does damaging a fiber optic line cross your mind? Of course not, because those utilities are buried underground. So don't think twice about calling 811 before digging. 811 is a free service, takes as little as 5 minutes, protects you and your neighborhood, and it's the law. So call or click 811 today. This safety message brought to you by North Carolina 811.
This episode of the Half Price Concessions podcast is brought to you with support from Performance Center Racing Warehouse. In addition to being the home of the PRW chassis, Performance Center offers in-house setups and consulting, plus suspension and chassis pull-down analysis, along with their fabrication shop that can re-clip your race car with the fastest turnaround in the industry. Give Roger Johnson and the Performance Center team the chance to earn your racing business by calling them today at 704-838-1400 or visit them online at performancecenter.com. That's PERFORMANCENTER.com. Okay, on the Half Price Concessions podcast, and I am joined at Ace Speedway by Robert Turner, the guy who we dubbed in this whole thing, the guy who has literally done everything at Ace Speedway. I can't think of another person who has been a co-owner, a tech official, and a Premier Division champion all in one lifetime. It's amazing you accomplished this, Robert, at such a young age.
I don't know that I'm that young anymore, but
you ain't got your AARP card yet, have you?
No, I've gotten invites.
Oh, okay. But as we put this out on Monday, we're racing Friday at Ace Speedway, and it's your first race since everything went down and you had to shut down. So how good is it for you and everybody here to just get to open the place up and get to race again?
Yeah, it's definitely been an unusual year. A lot of unexpected things and, things you just can't prepare for. And, there's so many things in life that you take for granted that sometimes you regret. But, you just assume when spring gets here, we're going racing, every week or every other week, and we're going to be here till fall, until we crown a champion. And this year that just didn't happen. So, never in my wildest dreams would I have ever thought, the way things have gone this year, that any racetrack would be shut down. But we live and learn, and we grow, and we get over it, and we move on, and we're definitely looking forward to next Friday night.
Before I get too far into your past, if I'd have came to you 20 years ago down in the pits here at Ace when you're running your late model and I said, Robert, here over the next 20 years, not only are you going to have to be a tech man, but you're going to end up eventually being a co-owner and running the show, how crazy would you have told me I was if I'd have told you that?
You would have been really crazy. I mean, I was just too consumed with my racing, and to do well, especially at the late model racing, you've got to really put the effort and the time in. And I just didn't really look any further than the end of the hood of the race car. That was all of my thoughts. So, what it took to run a place or even manage a place just wasn't even on my horizon, none whatsoever.
I got you. Well, I've told you many times you were my childhood favorite. I looked up to you, and you told me one time, son, you quit looking up to me probably in middle school because I'm 6'5". But I'm gonna learn a lot about you today that I've always wanted to ask you. If your racing had if you had a separate birth certificate for racing, who would have been the person that was responsible for exposing you to any kind of racing at all? Like, where did you even get the first bite of racing of any kind?
Well, that goes back to 6th grade, because I was actually born in Roanoke, Virginia, and my family moved down here in 1975, and the first person I met when I was taken to school was Todd Massey. So
you started off with quite a character.
No more questions need to be asked. We went to 311 Speedway. We came here to Ace when it was dirt. We went to Rainbow or Reedsville Speedway. We was at one dirt track or another basically every weekend during the summer.
So that was going there and watching, I guess, Frank.
Yeah, watching Frank and his brother David, and you end up watching and being fans of all of them. There was a lot of great drivers and great teams, and a lot of enthusiasm around the dirt racing back then, and it was good times.
So how did you end up ever getting in the go-kart? Because I've heard a lot of your go-kart stories from the Murphys and all that. So how does the go-kart come about?
Well, I mean, the go-kart is just, it's something entry level. But, when I say entry level, I don't want that to be taken wrong, because a lot of people still do it. It's a lot of fun. It's very competitive. But that's where I did start. It was affordable. It was easier to get started into. And I think you need to take a step somewhere, whether it be in a go-kart or, here at Ace in our extreme class. That's what it's designed for, where you can have an entry-level class that doesn't break the bank, to find out, really if that's what you want to do. And not only do you want to do it, but are you going to be committed? Because if you don't know what all it takes, time-wise, money-wise, knowledge-wise, there's a lot more to it than just driving. So, yeah, I did enjoy go-karts. We did it for several years, and that's where I started.
Was that you and your dad, or was that you and somebody else?
No, it was actually, me and a couple of the neighbors that had go-karts. I started with them, and then, Brad Allen, that raced here and managed here for many years. He and I actually raced together for years. And what got my first taste into the cars was, Todd had actually built a car, because, we went to school together all the way through high school. He had built a car, and I actually built his engine. So we were like, a team, and he took care of the car, and he drove the car, and I built the engines, and, we went racing at 311 Speedway and here at Ace as well.
I can't imagine hanging out with a young Todd Massey, because by the time I came around to learn who Todd Massey was, he was, not old by any means, but at least an adult, and he was still wild as an adult. So I can't imagine teenage Todd Massey.
There was never a dull moment.
I've heard a few stories Mike Massey shared with me. I think Log Cabin comes to mind on one of those.
I remember it well. I didn't think we was going to get out of there.
I was about to say. So, it seems like during that time, it was pretty clear, Todd was going to get into racing. When did you kind of start to think, well, maybe I can afford this, or maybe I can jump in here and build one too, or was that just there from the beginning?
No, it was there from the beginning. I would like say I had done the go-karts for a while, and then whenever I started going to the track with Todd, the competitive part was already there. It was just, how do I make it happen? And, I was just either at the end of my high school era, and, I had a Corvette and a motorcycle, and I ended up selling both of them to get my first race car.
Nice.
So, and I started out different. I actually ran limited sportsman here at 311 Speedway, but I had to run late model here because Ace didn't have a limited class. Okay. So, I started out running against, Garland Lynn and Tommy Bear and, Patrick Gann and, Larry Isley and, Ray Tucker. And I started out against all the guys that had, were well known and winning anywhere they went. So I got into education in a hurry.
I was about to say, was that hard? Was that hard medicine to take, or did you take it as a learning experience? 'Cause
No,
it seems like some people aren't. They're not very apt to learn from it. They just get frustrated because they're getting beat.
No, it made me work hard. There were a lot of good guys there, and they had a lot of talent, and they had good equipment too. You know, I didn't start out with the best equipment, but all it did was it made me drive hard. It made me work hard to catch up with them as quick as possible.
What was that first car? Was that a one you had to go find in a junkyard? Was that one you bought?
You won't believe it. The first dirt car I bought was actually an old asphalt car from Orange County, and we converted it over. And back then it was just wedge bodies with plexiglass on the back, so it didn't really resemble a car that much. But that was what was in then. But we had a good time with it. We didn't spend minimal money, but that's all we had was minimal money back then. And that year, just showing dedication and determination, ended up getting me a ride in late model for the next couple seasons. With a team out of Kernersville that kept me in racing where I didn't have to spend the money I didn't have.
Gotcha. So you're learning from all these guys that are still well known. I mean, I seen Ray Tucker a couple of years ago at County Line, and I looked at him like I look at Barry Beggerly, and he could still go out there and do it. You're learning all this stuff. You're running on dirt, and then in '89, I guess leading into '90, it gets announced that Ace is going to get paved. What was your thoughts on that? Was that were you going to try to stay on dirt, or did you just see it as I need to switch on over to?
Well, I mean, this is our home track. We didn't, our shop wasn't that far from here, and by that time I was driving for Beverly King, and we had some good local sponsors. Charles Jones Construction was one of our sponsors, and they especially Charles, he wanted to convert. And I did as well, and like I say, this is our home track, so it was just the right time to do it. And the dirt racing, and I still believe this 100%, well, I don't believe it, I know it. To learn your car skills, you need to race dirt. And then a dirt racer will make a better asphalt racer than just an asphalt racer, because he has car control. And there's a lot to that. Now, I enjoyed the asphalt racing, I think, better, but I learned the skills better in the dirt car.
Yeah. So 1990 comes, Ace gets paved, the old 3/8 configuration. Mm-hmm. It's a lot flatter, and you sitting there running late model against Todd Massey, who you've known, mm-hmm. Barry Beggerly, Dean Ward, I think Jay Fogelman.
Yeah, Johnny Rumley.
Yeah, it just seemed like a murderer's row out there. I mean, how did you make any headway against these guys?
It was a big deal because, this track was basically a totally refurbished track, new pavement, and we bought a car from Ward Burton. It was a year or two, couple years old, but either way, it was a good car. But we had no knowledge, of setting up or tires or nothing. But we did come over here opening night and qualified, I think, outside pole. Wow. I think Johnny Rumley may have sat on the pole and we were outside pole, and I think we actually finished third. But I mean, Barry was here. It was a stacked field of talent, and and we went to Orange County. Actually, I think we were running Orange and South Boston. We were rotating all three tracks. We went to Orange County, and I think we had a top 5 run down there opening night. And, of course, all that does is give you all this confidence that you got everything under control. And then the reality set in, and we were struggling. But, we knew that we had a lot to learn, but it didn't come as easy as we thought it would.
Yeah. Did you look up to any of those guys, or did you kind of just stay in your lane and stay working on your stuff?
No, I mean, I had a lot of respect for them, and yeah, I tried to talk with a few of them, but I found that a lot of them not going to give you any information, especially if they thought one day they'd have to deal with you. And which I talked to Barry a lot. Barry, he would always answer a question, but now he wouldn't give up any information.
Oh, okay.
But if you put him on the spot and directly answered the question, he would give you an answer. But it wasn't like he come over to your car and just said, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. But,
No.
you know, but, you know, he won a lot of races, so he had no reason to. But he was just the ideal competitor. You know, he raced hard, he raced clean, very respectful guy, clean cut. You just couldn't ask for no better competition than that. But, you know, there was a lot of good guys back then, and it was good times, and the racetrack benefited from it because this place was full on a regular basis.
Yeah. Now, like you talked earlier about one of the first friends you met was Todd Massey.
Mm-hmm.
You guys running out here as much as you were in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're both pretty close toward the front, at the front. Did that friendship ever get tested a couple times, or did y'all do a pretty good job of staying off each other? Because eventually, it seems like eventually you're going to run into each other at some point.
I mean, Todd's a hard driver, man. He's going to race. He would race his mom or daddy just as hard as he would, you know, a competitor. So,
Yeah.
you know, if you wanted to win at some point, there was going to be an issue, or there was going to be contact, or there was going to be a 1-2 finish. And we did have a few of those, and there may have been a time or two where, you know, he may have thought it was questionable, or I thought it was questionable. But, you know, once the race is over, the flag's dropped, you know, it's back to normal life until the next race. So, you know, you're only as good as your next race, and, you know, to be as competitive as he and I both are, it never really got out of hand.
Okay. Because it's funny. I remember some time ago when Gary Causey's son and Dean Ward's son, one of Dean Ward's sons, got into it just a little bit, and I was very anxious to see how Gary Causey and Dean Ward would handle the conflict. And it was kind of funny. It was like you could tell there was a little bit of upsetness, but they had that respect.
Yeah.
And then there's been other times when there hadn't been respect of someone else,
Yeah.
and the situation's escalated. So
Respect has saved a lot of people.
yeah.
But you know, it's part of racing. If you're competitive and passionate about the sport, and most people that in it are, you're going to have that. And if you don't have that fire, then you're not giving your all.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you lose that fire, it's time to quit. That's for sure.
So with all the learning you were having to do in 90 and get up to speed, did you have kind of that turn the page moment where you finally hit on something and you were able to get more success, or did that take a couple of years before you felt like you turned the page?
It took a couple of years because I actually hit some hard times and wasn't in as good of equipment, and then I got in some pretty good equipment, and you know, the cost of racing versus the time that you have to invest in your car, not just money, but the time you invest to be successful, got to where the time was more costly than the money. And then I wasn't getting the results. And I actually got to a point where I told myself, if I can't do better next year, I'm quitting.
You were at that point.
I was at that point because between the money it cost and the time it cost, it had taken the balance out of life. And really, if you're going to race, you're not going to have proper balance anyway. But when you don't have balance and you're not getting the results, it's miserable.
Yeah.
It is, man.
Can't imagine. Well, when I look at your Wikipedia page, 1998 is one of the big things that pops up. That's your first track championship here at Ace, and obviously you'd been here a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
You didn't just show up, but
Yeah.
tell me about 1998. What made that so special?
Because 97 was the year I told myself I was going to quit if I didn't do better.
That was the breaking point
That
year.
was it. 98 was going to be it. And I don't know what we did really that much different, but we paid more attention to detail. We paid more attention to the little things. We kept notes and we tracked what we did. We tried to test more, and it just showed. You know, it wasn't like we were off a mile, but here, if you're off a little bit, you're 5th to 10th.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can have a good car and finish 5th. And that's what, you know, the people in the stands don't understand. You know, if a guy's running 5th, you're like, wow, he's off tonight. No, he's not really off that much. He just isn't perfect. Or he made one minor adjustment wrong, or, you know, picked the wrong size tire. It can be that simple. But '98 went well for us, and we did the right things. We worked hard and we made good decisions, and all the years of previous where, you know, we weren't doing well, finally we reaped some benefits off of it.
Yeah. I mean, I told you before we turned the mics on, one of the reasons I fell in love with you is because you had that Rusty Wallace paint scheme in the early 90s. And
Yeah.
I remember you switching a little bit here and there, but that 2 was always constant up
Yeah.
until, you drove a 77 a little bit, but I always just remember that 2. And it just seemed like a time, it's so different than today, where today it seems like so many guys come through, they run late model year or 2, and they got to get pushed up so fast. Whereas back then, I mean, you had to deal with Barry Beggerly for how many years, Todd Massey for how many years, Dean Ward for how many years? Like, people didn't go away.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like people moved out of the way for you to win in '98.
Yeah, they're you know, the people that come here regular and have for years, they know the competition that's been here for, you know, for a long time. So there's been many years where, you know, there could be 8 to 10 different cars that could win the race. And like I say, Barry, he was a fixture here for a long time, and you know, he won a lot of races. Dean Ward won a lot of races. Todd Massey won a lot of races. You know, Michael Rich, you know, earlier, and Jay Fogelman. It's just been a lot of good cars here. You know, Rodney Cook had got to where he had won a lot of races, and Speedy Fawcett as you know, move closer in the years. And you know, just because you lose a team or 2 here and there, you always pick them up somewhere. Or the teams that are, you know, have been mid-pack, they gain that knowledge, and then before you know it, you're having to race against them.
Yeah. So you've won the track championship.
Mm-hmm.
You've kind of, I want to say come into your own, but you finally reaped the benefit of all this hard work you've done. You finally got to a championship. About this time, Ace Speedway goes through a change. They stretch the track out, ownership changes. But then also about this time, this series starts up, the Hooters Pro Cup, and it seemed like a lot of the local guys started to lean toward that as an option to run. Keith Woody, I know, R.D. Smith, Jay Fogelman, and I actually looked on Pro Cup's website back in 2001 and 2002. You were making a couple starts. So tell me where that idea even came from, because it seems like the late model took enough time. Where'd you find time to do Pro Cup?
Well, you know, racing is not a drug, but it is very addictive. And the Pro Cup is just, it's just, you know, racers, you want to be competitive and you want to go fast.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you run at Ace every week and then another class shows up that's faster, you want to be in it. So it wasn't about wanting to run the Pro Cup Series, but it was about wanting to run the Pro Cup race at Ace Speedway and be the hometown guy that could run against the big dogs.
Yeah.
So, you know, we never had the money to want to, you know, I think, you know, Keith Woody and Jake Fogelman, you know, they had run the whole series. Michael Rich run a lot of races. You know, I was never going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I just, you know, with kids and running a business and stuff like that, that was just kind of out of the question. But I did want to run a few local races. You know, we ran here, we ran Myrtle Beach, we ran a few, you know, Hickory, we ran a few different tracks. But, you know, we wanted to take the knowledge and the years of experience here and put it to work against the guys that you could watch on TV that were making a name for themselves, to let them know that, you know, you could run with them.
Yeah, a lot of those guys ended up running on Sundays.
Yeah.
If money had not been an issue and you maybe had some paid help, do you think you would have put Ace on the back burner and chased it just to see if you could duplicate what you did here at other places?
In a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't have to think about it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, once you're a racer, and if you've ever won multiple races, you know, I think about this every now and then, because you hear the Cup guys, you know, once they retire, they go to the booth and they say, you know, I'm content doing this. They're lying.
Yeah.
You know, once you get out of that car, there is no replacement. You know, you may do something that keeps you involved in racing, but as far as something that took place of being behind the wheel, it don't happen.
Nothing scratches that itch.
No, not close.
Gotcha.
And that's why, you know, I tell the guys in drivers meeting here on Friday nights once in a while whenever they've got questions. You know, I didn't give up racing because I wanted to. It got to a point where we gave it up. We gave up our passion so they could keep theirs.
Yeah.
Because it had gotten to that point where this place may not keep going. And, you know, nobody else had stepped up or made the commitment to revise or, you know, keep it going. So, yeah, you know, once you're a racer, you're always a racer.
I'm about to say, and you kept on. You kept winning races. I think you're still the all-time wins leader in the late model division. I know you and Barry and Todd are all kind of right there in that same bubble. You win another track championship in 2005, and then track's gone through another ownership change and some kind of harder times hit the track. But you're still out there, I think, in that red 13, the Darrell Allen car. Tell me about how the Darrell Allen deal even came together, because I think most younger fans younger than me will know you from that car, whereas I know you from the Black 2.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were good times. You know, Mike and I, we were about the same age, and you know, Mike had actually raced some dirt cars, and you know, he was always around a dirt track because his daddy had raced as well. So, you know, Mike comes from the same background as I. He loved racing. He was passionate about it. You know, he had fielded a car here in Superstock for Brian Owens that worked at the body shop, and when I had the 77 car that you had talked about, you know, Mike actually was really paying a lot of attention to me then that year. And at the end of that year is actually when we got together and, you know, I actually started driving a car for him, and I actually went to work for him. You know, not only did I drive a car for him, but he was my boss. So it was good times because, you know, he's a winner. He's a winner at business. He's a winner at the racetrack. So he actually stepped my game up even more than I had before, because, you know, he had more drive about, not more drive about winning, but drive about making it happen no matter what. And we had some good times. We had really good equipment for many years, and we got a lot of good results, and it was good times.
Yeah, seems like you were kind of you had a flame, but he had a real big flame that you could feed off of. He still got that wild look in his eye. I don't think he's calmed down any at all.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's not, but he loves racing too.
Yeah.
And like I say, I owe a lot to them because they kept me in it for more years than I probably would have been in it, and they kept me in good equipment, and we racked up a lot of wins.
I was about to say. So about 08 was when I, as a fan, started coming back to the track, and that seemed like it was a time of, I remember seeing Speedy Fawcett and Rodney Cook and Dean Fogelman, and it seemed like you were starting to, I think you were still racing, but I think, if I'm wrong, correct me, I think that's about the time when you had to kind of step in and be an official a little bit. Tell me about how that even come about, because that seems like that is not optimal for someone who's trying to compete.
You know, if you're not a racer, you don't understand these things, but the track had gone through some owner changes, and the track wasn't in a good place. You know, we were losing teams. You know, if you've got 20 race cars here in late model, and you've got some good teams and good equipment, and people are working hard on their car, they want to feel like they've got the same opportunity to win as the next guy. And at the end of the night, when the cars go through the tech building, or if they don't go through the tech building, if they sense that, you know, some of the cars are not getting checked, or you know, the rule book isn't as valuable as it's supposed to be, you start losing cars. And, you know, Ace had gotten to where they were losing good cars. And we had lost our good tech guys, and that's never a good thing. A racetrack needs a strong tech program because that will bring competition. And the track had dwindled so much that I'd actually gotten called from Johnny Fogelman. He was actually running the track at that time, and he wanted me to step in and help with the tech. And I said, Johnny, you know, that's not a good idea because I'm still racing. A racer cannot tech another man's car. But he said, but we're running out of cars. We got to do something. And the only thing that helped that helped, I guess, was because I did have some respect in the pit area, and I think people judged me as being a fair person. So because of the track and because of the situation was declining, I did do it. But the negative side of that, I think the track started making a turn in the right direction, but my side of racing and what I wanted to do was suffering because, one, I couldn't put the time in my car I needed to. Two, it was hard to race against people you was having to tech.
Yeah, that's tough.
It put me in a bad position.
It's hard to be the referee and the ball player.
Yeah, and it wouldn't look good if I was winning a lot of races. And at that point I had to think about what's more important, what's good for me or good for the track. Because if the track's not here, I can't even do what I want to do. Nor can all of these people. So that's where it started.
Yeah. I'm about to say I hate you had to go through that. I mean, I'm glad you was unselfish enough to do it.
Yeah.
But I hate that for you because I would have hated feeling like if I was a baseball player and I'm doing good, I'm still performing, and I get asked, by the way, come over here and umpire.
Yeah.
Like, I would have just,
Well, I mean, it's a tough predicament to be in, and I did not want to be in it. But when you look around, a tech man is a very thankless position.
Oh yeah, you're never
appreciated. You're never going to be appreciated. You're never going to be the good guy, and you're never going to be right when you make the tough call. So it is a very bad position to be put in. But if you don't have a strong tech man, you're not going to have a field of cars.
Yeah.
So there was no way you was going to fix the problem here in a season. And once even in recent years, when we took over, it was still tough times because this place had gotten into, a lot of decline, and we knew it was going to be a 3-year process to try to turn it around. And what really kicked us in the pants was this was our 3rd year, and then we get hit with the coronavirus. So, this was supposed to be our biggest year yet, and I thoroughly believe it was going to be.
Yeah. And
this, whatever you want to call it, has just kind of stripped it. But we're workers. We're positive. We're going to keep digging, and we're going to make it through here somehow.
Gotcha. All right, I got to hit you a couple rapid fire ones. So, from all your racing, Ace, Orange County, South Boston. I know you went to Martinsville a couple times.
Yeah.
Was there anybody? You're so cool and calm and all this stuff, and I've hardly heard you yell, except, a couple times. Was there anybody you ran with that just got so far under your skin that it would almost break your character and make you snap? Like, was there anybody you had to run in that just, like, took you out of being the Robert Turner that we all know and love to death?
Maybe late in my career before I quit, there was a few instances that really bothered me. But it wasn't that person, it was my performance.
Okay.
Once you're not winning, but yet why you're not winning, you still can't accept it. I'm used to, we had seasons where we won 7, 8, 8. And man, when you get on those streaks, you don't want them to end.
Yeah.
And they end for a reason. It's not because you can't drive. It's not because you don't have the equipment. It's because you're not doing the work. And, between doing the teching and various other reasons, you lose that edge, and it shows on the racetrack. So, yeah, I had a few incidents that really got my attention where I exploded or did a few gestures that were not me, but it wasn't that person, it was my performance. The only people that I hated to get in an incident with Todd, but I knew it was just because he had to fire just like I did, and we only had a couple incidents, and I picked with Gary Causey still because, me and Gary had picked up his program, and he got to where he was running good, and I had a couple battles with him on the track, and man, he's a mean dude.
Yeah.
He was then.
It ain't no. Let's go have a discussion about it.
I'm not the one to pick a fight with anybody, but he's the worst one you want to pick a fight with. So, we had a couple run-ins where literally I thought he was going to just kick my tail.
That was about to be.
And he probably had reason to do it, but I guess, and I'm talking about we were face to face, so I guess that respect level saved me at that moment. But then on the tail end of that, I ended up going to the racetrack with him at other tracks, crew chiefing for him, helping him win races. So
it's only in racing this happens. This don't happen in other sports.
No, but yeah. Now Gary's, he's a great friend. He's, he's one of our competitors. But he was just like me and Todd. If you're racing and you've got that competitive fire, if you don't show the passion, you don't have it. And Gary did have it. He did win races, and if you race week to week, especially on a small track like this, you're just going to have it.
Yeah.
And that was probably the closest I'd ever come to getting in a predicament I didn't need to be in.
You know what I always heard about you?
What?
I always heard you could tell Robert's mad if he's quiet. You were that one. You would just hush and be like.
Well, like I say, I'm not big enough to really be a threat in a fight. So, yeah, my daddy always told me if I didn't have nothing good to say, to just keep my mouth shut. And I've been pretty good at it.
I got you. Do you have a moment in your late model career that was like a biggest win or just a most proud moment? If there's one you can narrow it down to, is it a particular win? Is it championship in 98 or 05? Is it, is
I don't
there
know.
any moment stands out?
It's kind of silly, but this was back many years ago, even probably around the first championship. But I can remember days, and David Murphy, he picks on me a lot about it because, he was part of it. And, at one time we had a good crew. Everybody had their job. They knew their job. They did it well. In the shop, they knew what they had to do. And even if I wasn't there, they did their part, and I would come and do my part when I had time. But we had things clicking just so well every week. It got to where we would only run practice. At the end we had 2 or 3 practice sessions. We would only run one practice and put the car on jack stands. And I would go out in qualifying and only run one lap and cut the car off and set on the pole.
Wow.
And we loved that because there's nothing worse as a competitor than seeing a guy not run all the practices and go out there and click the pole off and cut the car off at the start-finish line, coast around, and not even know what his time is because it ain't posted yet. But we knew that car was that good where we would cut that thing off at the start-finish line, and I'd see the time when I'd get down to turn 2 and roll in, and just things were clicking really good, and we were winning a lot of races, and that was good times. And you just don't get many years like that. But those are the best memories.
I bet the look on their faces was probably priceless because they had to probably be sitting there like, I've been working on this thing, made 10 million adjustments, and this little guy comes out here and just blows my doors off. Like, what do I have to do?
Well, I mean, but the thing is, the racing evolves every so many years, and just at that time we had the right setup, the right package, and every 3 to 5 years there's a shift in theories or whatever that makes the cars better. And we struggled whenever the light spring and the big sway bar come along. We struggled then, and I know now what we were missing. But then we couldn't put our finger on it, and we struggled for years. We were still top 5, but we weren't winning like we should, and it was just not finding the correct solution. But when we were in our heyday and we were able to do that, we could just see the look in the other guy's eyes, and they were just mad.
Yeah.
And they were silently mad, but when you walk down pit road and you see that, you're doing your job.
They're giving you the side eye.
And I'm not a big talker, I'm not a bragger, but those were the days that really made it worthwhile.
Well, you had to work to get there. So I mean, you take it and enjoy it.
Yeah, it took a long time to get there.
About to say, well, I get you out here on this because now you're not in the seat. you're behind the scenes trying to make sure everybody else gets as fair shake as they can, and the concession stands got electricity and the bathrooms will flush. So you're so removed from where you were. Do you ever see some of these guys and see kind of like that little bit of your former self in them, or do you just completely remove it and they're just a different person?
I mean, I try to see them for what they are. And, you know, every now and then I like to just give somebody a little bit of advice and they don't even ask. And then when it helps them, it's good.
Yeah.
But still, you know, you can't do that but so much, because, you know, this place, I had no idea. You know, being a competitor, all you focus on is your car and the racetrack. And then once we took this over, I had never stood in turn 3 and 4 on that sidewalk up there and seen the racetrack.
Yeah, you're always down here.
I mean, I'm always down here, and my focus was the race car and the racetrack. It was not the grandstands. It was not what had been renovated. It was not the VIP suite. It was not the maintenance building. It was not I never realized how great a seat it is up there and what a great view. And I knew whenever I stood up there, I was like, man, how in the world did I not know this? And then when you start having to focus on, you know, the VIPs need repair, and then this roof's leaking and that roof's leaking, and, you know, these buildings don't fit there. They need to be here, and it's just a big undertaking. Yeah. But, you know, it keeps me busy, and I'm a busybody. I don't do well sitting on the couch.
Yeah, I'm about to say, you don't seem like you seem like you'd go crazy.
I would. I really would.
Last thing, I'll get you out on this.
Okay.
Because, and I don't mean to call you old, but in the time that you ran, you got to work and race under Leon Setzer, who his name's on the tower for the reason. Even since he's been gone so long, there's still so many people that talk about him and what an influence he was and what a character he was. And I know you've probably got a few of them, but can you pick me one Leon Setzer story that still makes you laugh to this day? Because you had to deal with him as an announcer, as the promoter, as a little bit of everything. So Leon
was bigger than life. He loved this place, and he ate, drank, and slept racing. He would come to my shop during the day where I worked every week. He was just an awesome man. I hate we lost him, but I will tell you one thing that stood out, and I'll never forget it. My shop is 5 miles that way through the air. You know, it may be 8 or 9 miles on the road, but through the air it's 5 miles. Dirt days, I'm working on my car, fixing to load up, and it's raining at my shop. I call Leon Setzer. Leon, we're racing tonight. Yeah, it ain't raining here. Come on.
You had to be thinking this guy's crazy.
When I pull in the gate, he's still standing on the back of the tower with a phone in his hand, and it's raining. Nobody wanted to race as much as he did, and he lied to me to get me over here.
Were you the only guy that pulled in?
Oh, no, there was a lot of cars here.
Oh, okay.
But he loved to race. It was raining when I called him. It was raining at my shop. It was raining at this racetrack, but he wanted us here in case we could get it in.
Did you get the race?
No.
Did you ever ask him like what the deal was?
Oh, you can bet I did.
Yeah.
You can bet I did. But you got to think, that was back in the 80s before it was paved, and they had a TV show here. You know, they did a weekly TV show, and that was before any of the other tracks. You know, they he's still been around, and Terry Wiles and, you know, nameless others. There's no telling. You know, once the Turners, you know, Jim and Fred had got a hold of this place, they did so much with this place. There's no telling the limits of what this place could be and still can be. And, you know, we've got a lot of ideas. We have to do it in steps. You know, we're not funded like they were, but we've got a lot of ideas that we want to do and a lot of things we want to implement. We just have to do it in stages. But yeah, there's been a lot of great owners here, a lot of good people, and Leon, boy, if he was still here, ain't no telling what this place would be.
No. I appreciate your time, Robert.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
We'll
Enjoyed
see you Friday out here. If anyone's ever looking for you, just look for the guy who's going back and forth like the cartoon character on Yosemite Sam, looking to get shot at by somebody who wants to fuss and cuss at who's running the place. That seems like the easiest way to find you.
I'm always on the move, no doubt. Always on the move. But we've been really fortunate. We've got a lot of great teams here, a lot of great fans, and we're ready to open the doors. We can't wait until the day where we can fill this place back up and put on a good race for the fans.
Thank you for listening to yet another edition of the Half Price Concessions Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Overcast, Himalaya, Castro, whatever podcast app you're using. Please hit the subscribe button. If there's a section to leave us a rating and review, please leave us a good one. It would really help us out a ton. Also, if you're listening on our YouTube page, hit the subscribe button there. That way, you'll get notified every time we put out new episodes. Also, you can email the show. The email address is halfpricedconcessionspodcast@gmail.com. You can email us questions, concerns, ideas for future episodes, anything and everything. We'll definitely respond to it, and we just appreciate you listening. Also, if you have friends or family who want to listen but don't want to go to YouTube and don't have a podcast app, you can listen to every episode on our website. That's www.anchor.fm/HPC podcast. Thank you for listening. My name is Tyler Williams, and I hope that you have a great day.